Okay, gang, we're going to graph this function number 49 from 4.5. I'm going to first start with trying to figure out the table. So remember, anything outside of the trig affects the range, anything inside the trig affects the domain. So outside of the trig would be this and this. If you need me to rewrite this, I can. Just because it's in the back, it's still a D value. They could have put it in the front like this. You just have to recognize that it's outside the trig function. Okay, we can start by just saying what this is doing. So this is the amplitude, which means it's going to go up 3 units, down 3 units, up 3 units, down 3 units. This is actually pushing the whole graph down, so this is a vertical shift down. And this is moving the cycle pi units to the left. It's always the opposite sign. So let me start with the x values. See, the only thing affecting the x values is this plus pi. There's no b value here is 1, since the default is 1, so nothing's changed from the standard graph. So it's still the width of 2 pi. So the horizontal width of this graph hasn't changed. It will still cycle out in 2 pi. So the increment's also the same. As you can see, the standard increment is pi over 2. That's the jump to the next point. So that also hasn't changed. So these two things are, you'll see this in the standard graph. The width of this is 2 pi and the jumps are pi over 2. So nothing's really changed yet. The change comes now when we push the graph over to the left. So in the lecture, I would call this the interval, whereas the old function starts at 0 and the old function stops at 2 pi, like the standard one, the old one. So if you do the new start, what you do is you take the guts, or the inside, you say x plus pi equals to 0, and you solve for x. Okay, so that means you have to move the pi, you still have to subtract the pi to the other side. So that means that the new start is pi. Let me just do the new stop as well. So the graph usually stops at 2 pi. So how I did the new start was I set it equal to the old start. How I'm going to do the new stop is I'm going to set it equal to the old stop. That's where it usually stops, but then by subtracting pi, you're going to subtract pi, I'm going to get a new stop. And then you can either do this in your head, like what's the middle of here, what's the middle here, and so on, or you could just use the increment. The increment is pi over 2. So if I add pi over 2 to this, it's negative pi over 2. If I add pi over 2, it's 0. If I add pi over 2, it's pi over 2. If I add pi over 2, it's pi. So for here, you would just add the increments to get the other values. And I like to always check the last one that it makes sense. All right, so again, anything inside the trig affects the domain. Anything outside the trig affects the range. So we're sort of done with the trig part. We're done with this, okay? So now when you figure out the range, you want to think about what does this sign, what does this part right here output? When you put it into the sign, what does it output? You could put it here in my reformatted version if you prefer that. So this is what it usually would put out. The sign here would output a 0, then it would have to be multiplied by 3, and then subtracted 3. So 3 times 0 minus 3 is 0 minus 3, which is minus 3. So think of this as outputting something that then gets multiplied by 3 and subtracted by 3. So then 1 would come out next. So 3 times 1 minus 3 is 3 minus 3, which is 0. Okay, then we do the next one. The next value output is 0. Next one would output a negative 1. Last one would output a 0. Okay, so that's just me recalculating all the new output values. And that's pretty much it. Now I just have to make sure I scale my graph nice. And I've got it. Let me just see if I can find a piece of paper here to draw this. Okay. All right, so now I got to sort of look at this for a moment and look at, all right, this is 3, this is 3. Okay, so it's pretty equal actually. All right, maybe let me maybe move the book. All right, that's a little better. All right, so if I lost focus, I'll fix it. Just give me a second. I'm gonna. All right, so I'm scaling in my head here. So I'm gonna start with negative pi. Okay. I'm gonna call. Yeah, you just guys have to decide how you want to scale things. So like I'm gonna call this distance here negative pi. So then negative pi over 2 would be like halfway. All right, so now I know what pi over 2 looks like. Okay, and then let me say then pi is here. Now we already know we're going to draw 2 cycles, and I'm choosing to go to the right. So I'm just going to keep drawing some more increments. How far do I have to go? If this is 1 cycle, then this would be another cycle because it's 2 pi. Okay. Pi plus 2 pi is 3 pi. All right, I went far enough. All right, now the output values, notice they're like 3, 0, negative 3, 0, negative 3, negative, stuff like that. So remember, pi is about 3. So when I'm scaling this, I'm thinking, okay, this is about 3. So negative 3 in reference to my pi would be about here, because pi is also about 3, in absolute value is also about 3, and then negative 6 like about here. Okay, all right, so now let me put the points on. So my points, you're gonna see me run through these. So negative pi, negative 3. All right, negative pi over 2, 0. 0, negative 3. Pi over 2, negative 6. So the middle line is actually negative 3. This graph is pushed down 3 units. Where are we now? We're at pi and negative 3. All right, that's here. So I'll draw 1 cycle of this, and then I'll come back and draw another, okay? Make sure you put a little arrow at the end. All right, that's 1 cycle right there. Now we're going to keep going. So watch the pattern. We went middle, up, middle, down. Now we're at the middle, so we should be going up. Good. We should be going up. Now we're up. We go back to the middle. Then we go down. And then we go back to the middle. All right, so let me add that on. And again, a little arrow at the end because these graphs just go on and on and on. All right, let me write it up here. All right, so let's just walk it through one more time. The graph is usually at a height of 0, but this is your D value. So now it's at a height that's 3 units down. So it took it up. The center used to be around my pencil, all right? But this -3 moved it down 3 units. So now it's oscillating around this center, around -3. It took the whole graph and it moved it down 3 units. Okay, it took the graph and it shifted it pi units to the left, because this graph usually starts at 0 and starts oscillating from here. But the plus pi, remember, it's always opposite of the inside, pushed it to the left. So now it starts here at -pi and starts isolating versus starting at 0. The 3 means that from the center it goes up 3 units, down 3 units, up 3 units, down 3 units, versus going up 1, down 1, up 1, down 1. Okay, it's going up 3, down 3. It's got a bigger wave up and wave down. All right, gang, I hope that helped. I'll catch you. Bye-bye.